What on, guys, Commander here, and welcome to my review of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Now, before this video starts, I just want to say straight away, this video will contain spoilers. I'm not doing a spoiler-free review because there's no point in me doing that. I'm going to do a spoiler review straight from the start to end. I'm not going to go too deep into the story, but why I'm going to discuss is part of the story. And if you don't want to know because you want to play it yourself, then click off this video now because I will be going into spoilers in the game. So, with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the pros and cons of what I experienced. Not everything, but what I experienced while playing the game. It took me about 18 to 19 hours to finish this, to finish the campaign of this game. And I still haven't, as of recording this video, it's literally been out for like 3 or 4, wow, about 5 days it's been out and I've managed to complete it, but I've still got to do the collectibles now, but I've done the main storyline, so I think that's enough for me to give a good impression on what the game is like. So, first of all, we're going to go over the pros, and the first one that I want to go over is that the story is actually really, really good. Now, when we weren't given too much of the story, from the trailers, we didn't know an awful lot. Like, when Battlefront 2 came out, the story was that we knew that the story was that the Empire had fallen and a group called Inferno Squad were basically given a mission from the Emperor after his death to go and do certain things to exterminate the rebellion. We weren't given any kind of story with the Jedi Fallen Order trailer. We knew the basics, like Cal was the survivor of Order 66. He meets up with this group. One is another Jedi and stuff like this. We knew that from the trailers, but we didn't know where the story was going to lead us. Now, the story itself is very good. Now at the start, I personally couldn't get into it that great personally, but from about the first 30% of the story, I really struggled to get into it. I don't know whether it's just because I really just wanted to play the game, so I just bashed through it so quickly I didn't know what was going on. But from about 40% onwards, so about halfway through the game, that's when I started to get a really keen interest in the story and what was going on. The first, Bracca, then Zepho, that planet, Zepho especially, maybe it's because it's a really tricky game to go, map to work your way around, because it was so deep, because it was completely underground and it was like a massive maze. Maybe it was that made me just turn around and think, you know what, I just don't care about the story at the moment because I'm trying to get past this level. And because I was trying my best to get through each different stage because it was such an in-depth puzzle, I wasn't paying attention to the story that was going on at the same time, maybe. But the first part, I wasn't too enraptured in the story because of the fact that I was trying so hard to get past the Zepho missions. But after about halfway through onwards, when we learn about the holocron and we go and do different things to try and get it, we follow Anna Cordova's mission and retrace his steps on Dathomir and Ilum and places like that. That is really good story. I really like it because it's really deep and detailed, but not so detailed that you actually need to know an awful lot about Star Wars in order to play the game. You can basically pick the game up and know the basic of the story. He's a survivor of the Purge of the Jedi Order, and he's basically his goal is to rebuild the Jedi Order. You know, you don't need a deep understanding of Star Wars to know what is actually going on. And the second point I want to go on to is the lightsaber combat is fluent and realistic. It's really good, especially when you're faced off against Purge troopers. Not necessarily the ones that got the blasters, but the Purge troopers that have got the electro staffs or the electro batons or the shock troopers who are carrying the electro batons. It's really good because you actually have to time your combat a bit. You got to time your counter attack to sort of I think it's the parry thing, I think it is, where you do basically time your attack and it staggers the enemy so you can then go in and attack. I think that's really good. It's a really good way of tacticking the way you attack. You can't just go in. Now, we saw this from the trailers, but you couldn't just go in, swing your lightsaber around like you could do in Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. That was the only criticism I had with Force Unleashed, is that it wasn't too realistic. It wasn't too realistic in how lightsaber combat worked. You could literally, if you had a group of like 70 stormtroopers in front of you, you could literally go in, run into them, slice and dice them all, and you wouldn't even lose half your health. Now, whereas with this game, because it's very much a challenge and the AI are very much more intelligent, they will come and attack you, and instead of each enemy being like attacking you one at a time, waiting for their turn because waiting their turn to come and attack you, they will all come at you all at once. So you can have you would find 2 shock troopers with riot batons, and then you would have like 4 stormtroopers up on the ledge above you shooting down at you at the same time. So you've got to do it bit by bit, which I think is really cool because you have to think before you do it. Like there's many instances where I was on top of a ledge with stormtroopers, and instead of just going down and slicing them all up, I had 2 normal scout troopers, I had 5 stormtroopers, a purge trooper, and a scout trooper commander, which got more health. And I actually had to sit there and think, how am I going to do this properly? What am I going to do? Like, who do I attack first? Do I attack the shock trooper first? Do I attack the purge trooper first to get him out of the way? Do I just stand my guard and take out the stormtroopers first to get the range out of the way? So I've just got the melees first. What do I do? And that's games like that make me think how I need to go about my attack is really good. And when you die because your plan didn't work, you then have to go out and re-evaluate it. It's really good. And games that make me do that I really enjoy, because I actually have to think about how things are going to work. Because otherwise you just get, again, like Force Unleashed, it's just you go in there, slice a few stormtroopers up, you don't even have to think. But also, another point with Fallen Order is the models. Most of the models look really, really good. Now, certain models, like, I've seen this going around before, even since when the trailers come. Models like Cal and Seer especially don't look that great. Now, I'll come back in that when we do the cons, but some models I'm not too massive fans of, but most of them, like, especially the armored troopers, like Stormtrooper, Shock Trooper, Purge Trooper, Second Sister, Ninth Sister, I think it is, Darth Vader especially, look absolutely amazing. All of the armored models look absolutely stunning. And again, on Dathomir, Undead Night Sisters, Night Brothers, the Night Sister Merrin, I think it is, they're absolutely out of this world brilliant. Now, there are I've seen better games with better graphics than that, and I bring it back to Halo 2 Anniversary again, because Blur did such a good job in remastering that game, but I'm yet to see a game that has gone beyond the extent of Halo 2 Anniversary that Blur did with that game, because it's so good. But anyway, regardless, it's so good looking as far as models are concerned. And the last bit about on the pros before we go on to the cons is, it feels like Star Wars. And I know that's a really weird thing to say. Well, some people might not think it's weird, but I know it's probably a really weird thing to say because it's a Star Wars game, but Battlefront 2, now I don't like the Battlefront 2 campaign. It was short, it was rushed, they tried to put too much in it and it didn't work for them. It didn't feel like Star Wars. It didn't feel like a Star Wars campaign. You didn't feel like you were in a Star Wars universe. Now, with the Fallen Order, yes, it takes a lot of inspiration from like Metroidvania, Dark Souls. I think there was some comparisons to Metroid Prime, I think, in there as well. But it takes inspiration from all those games. 3 very diverse games, mind you. But it takes inspiration from that, but puts a Star Wars spin on it, and give it the right atmosphere, and it just looks so... It makes the game so enjoyable because it makes you feel like you are a Jedi in that instance. Like the immersion. I always love games that make you feel so immersed in the story. You know, because that's the games where you want to think, right, I want to go and finish off the story. I want to go back and continue on the game. Like, I've played certain games before where I've got halfway through the campaign, I'm like, I don't enjoy this. Like, why am I enjoying playing this game? Why am I playing this game if I don't enjoy it? But Fallen Order is so good. It's so entertaining, you know, and just the combat in itself is just just is enough to make you want to come back and play the game, just to slice up a few stormtroopers, just for the excuse of slicing up stormtroopers. That's one of the main reasons why. But then you add the story element into it, and it just feels so like, it feels so good. And with the customization as well, with the lightsaber, the customization like BD1, Cal, and the Stinger Mantis, it could be a bit more in depth. Like, I just feel that it was just skins, you know. Well, it was just skins. Not that I feel like it was just skins. It was just skins. But those three didn't really have too much customization. I would like a bit more customization. Like, change Cal's hairstyle, or like put gloves on him or something. But like but whereas like the lightsaber customization is so in depth that you can literally customize each individual piece to how you want it, you know. So there are hundreds upon thousands of customization options that you can have, and it's that type of customization that I really like. If they had that with all the other bits, like Stinger Mantis, Cal, and BD1, I'll be well up for that. I'll be totally up for that. Now, I know things like BD1, there's not a lot of customization you can do for him, but the Stinger Mantis set, so you could add, like, change the color, but you could add certain bits onto it, like a torch on the top of it, or like a Gatling gun underneath, or something like that. Just little bits of like customization to make you think like, this ship is mine, you know. Because the problem with having like individual, like just color customization, not having a huge range of it, is that you get other people who you look at and you think they've got the same customization as me. I always like the feeling of going into, let's say, an MMO game, MMORPG game, like Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, let's say, and being the only one that's got the customization stance that I've got. You know, I'm the only one who's got the armor trait that I've got. There might be somebody else, but it's like one other, and it's near as damn it similar. But being the only person in the entire server that's got that type of customization, where, you know, it's like lightsabers. There's so many different types of customization for lightsabers in this game that you struggle to find somebody who's got the exact same customization. You might find somebody who's got the same color lightsaber, the same emitters, but the 100% thing, you're not likely to find somebody who's got exactly the same lightsaber just by chance. So that is, customization's good, it's just not great. They could have done a bit more with it. On to the cons. Now, there aren't an awful lot about this, and it's not anything major. It's just little things that I noticed while playing the game that I just thought that, like, you know, I don't like that. The first thing is the lighting and environment. Now, this goes for various different number of things. Now, the first thing, which is the main thing, is it can make the models. The lighting and environment has. Now, I do game development at college at the moment, and I know that lighting and environment changes can have a massive effect on the assets and the models that are around it that it's emitted onto. You know, because you can make shadows, you can make a model look dark, you can make it look lighter, you can make it like change the position of its shadow and stuff like that. So different lighting and environment can change how the models look. And in this game, sometimes, it's not all the time, don't get me wrong, because sometimes it works really well, but sometimes the lighting and the environment, especially in dark places like in turbo lifts, make the models look absolutely terrible. It looks ugly. Like, and maybe it's just the fact that they haven't done it properly, and maybe it's the fact that they just you can't do it properly, but sometimes you just, especially because you've got a 360-degree camera that you can use, so you can look at Cal's face, for example. You know, I went up a turbo lift. I think it was on Kashyyyk, and I had a face, the camera was on Cal's face, and as it was just going, you had the scrolling lights on the turbo lift as you go up it, and I just thought, that looks awful. I mean, then when you get into the light, you look around it again, it looks perfectly fine because you've got the light on it. But if the lighting in a certain area isn't quite right, then the models don't look that great. And it's not just Cal. It's anything, even the Purge Troopers or the Stormtroopers, which I say the models are absolutely, like, brilliant for. It just makes them look, like, hideous because of the light mixing with the different parts of the model and the Stormtrooper's armor. You know, I'm not sure whether it's the model's fault or whether it's the lighting and environment that's just not been set up properly. Maybe I'm not entirely sure, especially because this game was made in Unreal Engine 4 as well. I don't understand that, mate. Really, but you know, And the second thing, which is really annoying me, and I don't know why it's a thing, and I don't know what Respawn were thinking, and maybe it's just the case that it's a open world, like linear open world game, it's half open world. Maybe it's just because it's an open world game and it has to be a thing because their engine's not strong enough to load it properly. I don't know, but random lag spikes in the game, and it's not just like every couple of hours that you experience it just because it's trying to load something in. It's consistent. I was playing a game and I had to turn my graphic settings down to low. Now I've got a 2070 in my PC. It's an 8 gig video card. It's a Asus Strix Overclock edition. And it should be able to run that game at medium to high settings at 60 FPS at least. Now, I can't go epic with that because I need a new better CPU, but that's not the point. But I can run it by medium to high settings at 60 FPS at least. I had to put it down to low a couple of times because the lag was so bad that it just wouldn't work. I couldn't play the game. Now, it's, again, like a freeze between environments is fine because the maps are so big in the game that it does have to freeze. Like we've had games beforehand where the thing is exactly the same, and I understand it because the levels are so big. But if you're just going to randomly lag and freeze, I don't see why it's going to do that. Like, maybe it is because it's so big, but I can't, or maybe it's just because it's really badly optimized, but it's really annoying, especially when you're in the middle of a firefight and you're fighting against a purge trooper and you're swinging your sword and then suddenly it just freezes and you're like, what's going on? Then without you realizing, it comes back and and the purge trooper gets a hit on you and it kills you. That is what really irritates me because it's not optimized properly, and in addition to the lag spikes, sometimes the buttons don't even register properly. Like, I was doing a boss fight, I was fighting Malakos on Dathomir, and now that took me a good 3 hours, not consistent, but over the course of 2 days, it took me about three and a half hours to beat Malakos. Now, it's mainly just because that I'm an idiot and I can't, and because I'm playing on keyboard and mouse, and the key bindings are so all over the place that it is quite tricky, I can't lie. However, what doesn't help is that I'm trying to fight and attack Malakos, or a boss, or anything for that matter, and the buttons don't even register. Like, I press control to go and roll and dodge out of the way, it doesn't even do anything. And maybe it's because that, like, that there is a stammer in the game where if you just attacked, you can't instantaneously just roll. But sometimes I click control, I have to press it twice because the buttons don't register. Like, or maybe it's just my control, because if you're blocking and I'm pressing my mouse button, I'm pressing it, properly pressing it, and you gotta press it consistently in order, like if you're in a lightsaber lock with somebody, I'm consistently pressing it, but half the time my buttons don't even register. Like, I go backwards and then I go forwards because my my clicks aren't registering. I don't know why it is. It's just like, it's a pain, you know. And again, it's not anything that makes the game a bad game. It's a pain because it makes it hard to play, you know. Like, there's nothing wrong with the story necessarily or the way that the game plays. It's just, you know, and again, it's not a bad or hard game to play, aside from the fact that it is just a bit of a tricky game anyway. But that's good because that's good for a game to be like that. But there's a difference between being a difficult game to play and being a difficult game to work with. You know, I would prefer a game that is difficult to play with, like difficult to play, but at least my buttons work and do what I want it to do, you know. So it's annoying, you know, and maybe they'll release a patch. Maybe there's a patch in the next couple months or hopefully weeks, if like best case scenario. But hopefully they'll release a update which fixes that. Maybe not necessarily the lag spikes, but buttons not registering especially, I really hope they fix. You know, I mean, I've finished the story now, so boss fights don't really occur to me that much. But I mean, Purge Troopers are still a bit of a pain, I can't lie. But anyway, the final thing I want to go over is Cal's story. Now, this game is meant to be Cal's story, but in my personal opinion, now I'm not saying it doesn't do this at all, but it doesn't do as much as I'd hoped. Cal's story, especially his backstory, doesn't develop that much. And what I mean by that is, put him in comparison, and I watched a review on this before this is the day before I played the game. It was on Thursday, so it came out on the Friday. I watched a review, and it said that Cal doesn't have much of a story development, and I thought, well, I'm not entirely convinced, but I'll have a go and see what it's like anyway. And his story does develop, but it's not as strong as Seer, for example. Like, each part, multiple parts during the story, you get to know more and more and more about Seer. You know, we knew to start off with that she was an ex-Jedi. We knew she cut herself off from the Force. To start off with, we didn't know why, but as the story went on, we found out that when the clones turned on her, she went into hiding with Trilla, her apprentice. They both then got captured. Then we find out that Trilla got turned into an inquisitor through like countless amounts of torture. Then Seer escaped and went into hiding. That is a very deep story, and it's not just that, there's more to it than that, but that is a story that's very deep and brings a lot of, like, it allows us to connect to the character a bit more. And even so, Trilla, like, the connection between Seer and Trilla make her really deep character delve. Like, we know what they've experienced, we know how they feel, you know, we know what it's like for them. But whereas Cal, we know he's a survivor of Order 66. We know he lost his master, and that's about it. You know, we know he's struggling with the loss of his master, but that's sort of things you would expect. And aside from that, aside from like the main story and trying to find the holocron and stuff like that, we don't really learn a lot more about him. You know, we see a couple backstories of him training, and we see his experience of Order 66 and the fact that he can't deal with the fact that he's lost his master. But that goes without saying for somebody who's lost anybody that they care about, they've grown up with. You know, it's like losing a parent. You know, you've grown up with them for your entire life, and then having to lose them is heartbreaking. You know, and I would have loved to see a bit more of a backstory, like meeting a clone that he was friends with, like deep friends with, on the battlefield, having that be one of the bosses. That would have been so much better. That would have added so much to Cal's story, because we know that, you know, he found, like, do a bit of like like, here's what should have happened, right? Seer's story with Trilla, change that, but with Cal, but instead of it's Seer, instead of Seer, it's Cal, and instead of Trilla, it's a clone lieutenant or commander that Cal was very good friends with during the Clone Wars and worked together with during the Clone Wars with his master, and they come face to face on one of the missions. That is just, and it's not an awful lot, it's just simple things, but it's simple things that I think could have been added to the story to make it so much better. I don't know why they didn't add it, but it's simple little things, you know, and I think that would have added so much more depth to Cal's character, just like to know what he's been through. Aside from the fact that we know what he's going through, because it's what every Jedi would have gone through, that had seen their master executed anyway. You know, we saw this from Kanan in Star Wars Rebels. We've been this story before. We know what it's like. You know, Kanan can't hold his lightsaber out at full length because he's scared of, because he's scared after he lost his master. You know, we know this. We've been this story before. We know it, you know, but I would have liked something a little bit different from Cal, because he's a new character. I don't want to see this story again and again and again. You know, we saw the story twice in Rebels, so this is the third time we've been told the story, because Ezra lost Kanan. You know, we've seen this story 3 times before, you know, and, well, twice before, and now we're seeing it for a third time. I just wish there'd be something else in this character. But, anyway, so anyway, that's about all we have time for in this video here. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you did enjoy, don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button for more awesome gaming content. If you have any other games you want me to play or to do any reviews on, do let me know in the comment section down below. Again, I don't hate this game, but it's a really fun game, and I really did enjoy playing it. I thought the story in itself was really good, but the things that are bad with the game, the things I didn't like with the game, are not small enough to not get noticed. You know, if it's just simple things like the lighting was a bit off here, there, and everywhere, you know, I can just put that aside for the warrant of the game and playing the game. But I can't personally, like, it's hard to explain. There's certain things like that I can see in the game that I can look at and I think, you know, I can't get past that. I can't look past that. But anyway, anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, smash that button, and I'll see you all later. Bye.